I wish to thank you all for being with us today for the third interview in our series, Women Talk About the Middle East, which is a part of our Living in Harmony project at the Wolf Institute, generously supported by the Shasha Foundation. For those of you who didn't have the time to be with us in our previous interviews, not to worry, we already uploaded the first interview that you can find in a chat box. And hopefully the second interview with Lily Shaw would be uploaded shortly. So I'm delighted to present today our third guest in the series, the artist and food writer Linda Dangoor.
Hello.
Who was born in Baghdad and left Iraq with her family in 1959 when she was only 10 years old. Linda's career is rich and fascinating. From a very early age, she developed her artistic style, nourished and inspired by her Jewish Baghdadi heritage and demonstrating a refined and sensitive outlook and touch. Linda's work reflects her quest to discover the meaning of home and identity. With her art and her literary talent, Linda creates a mosaic narrative that ties together all the stations and landscapes of her life's journey and tells a story of an inspiring woman who has found her home and feels complete and happy with her identity. In our talk today, we will discuss Linda's memories of her childhood in Baghdad and explore the manner in which these memories have influenced her artistic work and life. So first, Linda, thank you so much for being with us today and for sharing with us your personal and artistic experience.
You're welcome. It's nice to be here.
I'm glad. So, of course, 25 minutes are not enough to cover all the fascinating aspects of your art and life, but we will do our best to highlight the most central aspects. Right after our discussion of 25 minutes, we'll have another 15
minutes. It has frozen.
Oh.
Hello?
Gal, can you check what's going
Hello?
on? Ah, it's okay. Yeah, you're
Is it okay?
Yeah. So
okay?
after the 25 minutes of interview, we'll have another 15 minutes of questions. So please, if you have questions, please send it on and we'll try to do our best to answer all the questions. So Linda, let's begin from the beginning. Let's talk about your earliest memories of Baghdad, your family, your school, your friends, the Jewish festival, whatever you like to talk about. The stage is yours.
Well, hello, everybody. It's lovely to be here. I'm often asked what are my memories of Baghdad. And really, Baghdad, the city, I never knew. I never knew because I was quite young and maybe a few times I was taken there, but of course, always accompanied, but I have no real memory of it. So home and Baghdad for me is the Tigris River where I learned to swim, my house, or my home rather, where we lived really as a mini society, as a tribe really. Lived with many uncles, aunts, great uncles, my parents, of course, and my paternal grandparents, whose house it was. It was a very, very busy house, and it was very lively. So that was really, that is Baghdad for me. And of course, my school, Frangaini. So those three elements were for me the whole of Baghdad and my whole world. And the Sabbath structured our week, and the festival structured our year. It was, if I look back, very idyllic. I had my cousins, there were three, and just before we left, one was on the way, so there would have been four. We had everything we needed. We had three cousins to play with my two brothers. We had a beautiful garden with fruit trees, jasmine, roses. It was idyllic. I would say, until 1958, when the revolution happened and the Kingdom of Iraq became the Republic of Iraq. And that is the first time that I personally, but I'm sure the whole household and all of Baghdad felt a fear. Fear entered the equation of our life. We couldn't leave. We had to stay. The airports were closed. It was quite a violent and turbulent time. But a year later, we managed to have a visa to go to Lebanon. And that is where I went to school with my brothers and my cousins, because they also came out at the same time.
Yes, but before we arrived to Lebanon, I remember you told me some very nice stories about your love for Arabic language and how close you felt to this language and how much you're agonizing until this very day, the fact that you actually didn't learn the language properly. So tell me a little bit.
Yeah, it is true. I loved Arabic very, very much. It was my favorite subject at school. And I wrote a lot of poems and short stories, which I would then bind together into little booklets by sewing the spine. And I think had I stayed in Iraq, I would have been a writer. I would have been a writer, maybe a journalist, but certainly a writer of books. And the beauty of Arabic, it was also visual, the calligraphy, and also the way you can say a poem. There was a certain cadence. There is such a beauty in that language that I still feel. And of course, when we came to this country, slowly, that language was not used anymore. So I am a little sad that I can just about read it now, and I can still write it, but it's not a language that I can really do anything with, except I can speak it, but so I think that later on we'll see has inspired part of my art, because I do put some kind of writing in a painting or in a drawing. Yeah, maybe it comes from there. I am not certain, but anyway.
We'll talk about it in a minute, but before that, we are now talking about 59, when you live with your family. You leave Iraq and you embark on a geographic and cultural, a fascinating geographic and cultural journey. From Iraq, you move to Beirut, then you go to the UK. From the UK, you move to France, and then you come back to the UK. In this fascinating journey, can you tell us in which country, what did you like, what did you love, what did you learn from, and what did you take with you along the years?
Well, coming to Beirut was wonderful. I'd never seen a sea before. And so for me, it was amazing to see this wonderful stretch of turquoise, shimmering turquoise. And also the food was completely different to our food. It was lighter, it was in little plates. I remember in Baghdad, we had a lot of rice and stews. It was, and Lebanese food was just wonderful. And I think my taste buds opened up in Lebanon. So afterwards, coming to London, it was really ironic because I was sent to a French school. So my English wasn't extremely good. It was just very elementary. And so really I come to a country where I should understand a bit more about its culture. I should learn a bit more about the language. And I'm sent to the lycée, the French school, which I loved, by the way. But I was in this oasis, French oasis, and then you come out and you're in London and everybody's speaking English, where before that I was in a French class. So it was very contradictory. I think when we were in Lebanon, I was really looking forward to coming to London, because I couldn't imagine a place where it rained every day. You know, that was so exotic for me, that it rained every day. And I remember we had some Wellington boots, and I thought we must take those, because I'd never, I can use them in London, you know. Of course, very soon afterwards, I thought, I wish it wouldn't rain so much, but that's something else. But what happened after 2 years of being in London was that the Iraqi government made us an ultimatum. You either go back or you lose your nationality. And well, we did not go back. And so they stripped us of our nationality. They took away our passports. And I felt it very deeply. It's like, you know, the motherland was supposed to be looking after her citizens like a mother after her children, suddenly rejects you. And that had a very profound effect on me. I sort of felt an orphan. I didn't know, my identity sort of was in tatters because of that. And I think that kind of questioning of then where is home then, if I've been rejected by my homeland, and who am I? I think these questions I kept asking myself throughout my adult life. So this was a very, very strong point. It was in the early 60s. But, you know, we did have also a community. So alongside, parallel to that, I kept looking and I said, but we do have a community, and that is my home. You know, this community is my home. And in fact, we did have quite a few people from Iraq, from Baghdad, that I knew, who had come here. So there was a kind of warmth and a feeling of being hugged and supported. There was that. I don't want to make it all sort of gloomy. There was that, but to take away somebody's passport, I thought that was not on. And probably in today's language, you would say that my human rights have been violated, you know, at that time. So, anyway, yeah, so I continued to the lycée, and really after that I went to art school. But I wanted to go to France. I wanted to go to France after I finished my MA. And there I started a publishing company. A publishing company.
For our audience, all the wonderful photos that you see here are still when Linda was in Baghdad. All these very elegant women are the Jewish women of Baghdad of the 50s, just mind you. Go on, Linda.
Yeah, this is my aunt, Eileen, and I think that's me, 1 year old, and she had made me that dress. This is a very, very lovely picture. She had made me that dress for my first birthday.
You know, I remember from the old generation that they actually used to import the fabrics from England, and they used to brag about it. This is from London. I mean, a proper lady, a Baghdadi lady, would say that her clothes are made of English fabric. So they were quite open to all the fashion in the West, and you can see this elegance. Of course, it shows how updated they were in this sense. Fantastic.
Well, I mean, I remember my mother used to have catalogs or magazines, and she would go to her dressmaker and say, can you make me this dress? And it was, let's say, a Dior dress or a Saint Laurent, maybe not Saint Laurent, but a Balenciaga or something like that. So yes, they had flair, and they were very elegant, really very, very elegant women. Yeah.
So we are now in France. You decided to go back to France.
Yes.
Start up again.
by the way, at the age of 3, I went to Paris with my parents because it was my Aunt Doreen's wedding, which took place in Paris. So, you know, it was like going back to France. It was going back to Paris. Yeah, Paris was lovely. I love the language. You see, the language again. I love the language very much. And my publishing company, I designed stationery and other things for the gift market with words. There were no illustrations at the beginning, and it's always words again. You see, this comes back, harks back to probably
To the language.
yeah. And the words were, of course, French words, and they were French, either proverbs or sayings. And yeah, it was a lovely time. I arrived in Paris when it was the new cuisine, la nouvelle cuisine, where they emulated a little bit the Japanese, putting a few things on the plate, and now we are very familiar with this kind of with serving, but and they tried to lighten French cuisine at the time, less sauces and a little bit more minimal, and so that was all the rage, and I enjoyed it tremendously.
And then at some point you decide to go back to England.
Yes, I decided after 14 years to come back. And what I found, and now to tell you something, although I was looking for identity in a home, you know, not consciously, of course, I was trying very hard to get away from, let's say, being Iraqi, because I thought I could be like anybody else. I didn't have to be hampered by being Iraqi. So I could, in France, I was French. And in England, sometimes I was English, you know, I thought of myself as English. Yeah. Especially when people asked me when I was a teenager, you know, where do you come from? And you say Iraq, and they look at you and they say, where is that? So even my country was not known, you know. But when I came back, I'm saying this because when I came back to London, I was struck by the fact that I could phone quite a lot of people that I have not been in contact with for a long time, for many years. And they were there for me. It was community again. And so this made a very, very big impact on me. In that, where in the world can you gather so many people that you know, or that have known your parents, or that, and don't need to ask you questions, where you're from. You know, you have your place. You have your place in this community. And I think I began slowly to appreciate that. And of course, yeah. And of course,
and again, a part of this sense of community, and you feel that you are hugged by this community. I think a strong part of it is actually, again, the language, because language many times creates codes that when you say a sentence, people understand where it comes from, people understand the context, and you feel that you can use this code without too many explanations, that when you say no, they understand what it means. When you say later, they understand what you mean. Everything is very cozy in the sense that they understand your mentality, they understand where you come from. It makes it very comfortable.
Yes, it does. But I think I was very, very, very Western in my way when I came back. So I slowly inched my way into the community, if I can call it that. And my Arabic wasn't so good anymore. And so when my grandparents arrived in the early 70s, it was with difficulty that I could speak to them. So slowly, my Arabic came back. And that is when truly, you begin to feel that you have a community, that you have roots. These are your roots. But something very strange, well, very funny. When I came back, I loved to entertain. And so I entertained in the way that I knew from France. You begin with a starter, and then you bring the main meal, and then you might have a salad or some cheese or something, and then you have something sweet. And of course, when I got married a few years later, slowly, this went out the way, and now I put everything, all the plates on the table.
So yeah, let's just, I want to just give our audience a little bit of flavor of your career. And for example, about your artistic journey in your website, you describe it in a very almost poetic way, this journey from writing small booklets and, as you described before, and actually creating them, to your deep love for Arabic language and calligraphy, from drawing and painting and graphic design and poetry and pottery, and last but not least, the food. So yes, let's talk about the food. In 2011, you published your book, Flavours of Babylon, and the second edition was in 2014. And I quote in the beginning, what you describe is that the book is all about exploring, sharing, and celebrating the flavors and recipes of my Baghdadi heritage. So now let's talk about food in the Baghdadi heritage. And we see here now this, this is Tibit, of course.
Yes, of course, I had to film it like that. I have to photograph it like that, because had I covered it completely, which is most how it looks, then it'll just be a mound of rice. So I uncovered it a bit. But the experience of writing that book was essential for me to make, if you like, to make peace with my past, if I can say it that way. I met the most wonderful and generous women that normally I wouldn't have met, who taught me how to make certain things, or how they make their sambusak, or how they do this, or how they do that, with such generosity that it was humbling, and it was a very, very important book. By the time I finished it, it changed me, because initially I wrote it really for my nephews, so that they would know what our culture is, because their mothers are not Iraqi. But it took about 2 years to write the book. Through that journey of writing the book, I was more and more rooted in my community, and it was a very, very important thing for me.
So let's talk about the characteristic of Iraqi food, or can we say Jewish Iraqi food?
I don't think we can. Only on certain dishes that.
Tibit is typical Jewish, isn't it? Because of
I'm sorry.
The Tibit, I think, is the.
Yes, certain dishes are typically ours. Certain dishes, but our food is we ate like everybody else. The way we cooked was slightly different. We didn't use butter with meat. I think our food had a lot more sweet and sour, which is comes nearer to the Persian. It has a more of a Persian influence. I feel it's more delicate, without wanting to insult anybody, but I feel it's a little bit less heavy. It just depends. I mean, this is our home cooking is like that. So I don't know. Maybe other people do it differently. So I don't think you can call it Jewish cooking. It's Middle Eastern, but done according to the kashrut laws for us. But, you know, we do mahasha, they do mahasha. Syria does mahasha, you know what I mean? Lebanese do mahasha.
Yeah, well,
I'm saying,
we can give this wonderful example of Iraqi typical food, which is samak mazgouf. So can you tell
yes.
us a bit about samak mazgouf, what it is, what it means, and how it looks like? And how
Well, so I tell you, you know, our tradition was always to go and sleep on the roof for
yes.
6 months during the summer months, and all of Baghdad did the same, which is they don't do it anymore. But I mean, it was a wonderful thing. And why I say this is because our house was really on the bank of the river Tigris. So in the summer, the lovely odors and aromas coming from the samak mazgoof, the mazgoof fish.
Let's say it in Hebrew, in English. It's a fish which is
It's a fish that is it's barbecued, but not on a flat barbecue. It's put on sticks, and with
open. They open the fish like this.
yes, they butterfly the fish, and they spice it up. They put herbs and everything, and then they stick it on poles, and they don't use charcoal. They use wood. It's called brushwood, which has a lovely, lovely smell once it starts burning, and all that gets infused into the fish. And of course, as we were sleeping on the roof, all these aromas would float up. And for me, you know, that was summer. You could smell it and you fell asleep smelling it.
Yeah.
And that is typical. I would say that is
Iraqi.
the Iraqi national dish, mazgoof, I would say.
And there's another very typical custom, which is not only Iraqi, but as you said before, Middle Eastern, is the way you entertain, the way you invite your guests and bring them food, the way you serve the food, for example. I'm sure
Yes.
tell us more about this.
No, but it's true. And the most important thing is to have plenty of everything, plenty for the eyes to see, you know. And this is a way of honoring your guests. But yeah, of course, I think this was something that Ottolenghi has done in his small shop where he began in Ledbury Road, in that he used very, very simple, simply cooked vegetables, but instead of having them in small dishes, he had mountains of them. And of course, people went wild because anyway, it was nicely cooked, slightly steamed or just stir-fried, but it just visually looked so inviting. And I think that is part of the Eastern way of honoring guests and the love of food, really, the love of food.
And also, you don't ask them if they like more, you just give it to them. I mean, it's not on portions, never be on portion. It's not polite to present food with portions and ask if you want some more.
No, but now, if you have a buffet and people stand around the buffet, they'll be forever eating, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is your favorite dish? Do you have any favorite dish?
I don't. I go through periods of liking this one or that one and that dish. I like fish very much, and I like a lot of vegetables. In fact, I don't. I tell you what, I like aruq b'samak, which takes a very long time to make, but I love it.
So for those who don't know what it is, can you explain it in English?
So it's a kind of patty made of the outside of the patty is made of rice and herbs like I was going to say cilantro. It's coriander and parsley and fish. So it's made of herbs, fish, and rice, and all that is mixed together. And then that is stuffed then with another type, well, some fish, and also the element that I like, the ingredient that I like, is numi basra. It's dried lime. So you cook the fish, the stuffing, with the dried lime, and you stuff that, and then very, very carefully you make it into a patty, and then you boil it. And some people after that fry it. I put it in the oven. I don't fry it, but it has a very, very lovely taste, and that I don't think anybody else does it but the Jews. So that for me could be another Jewish dish. Yeah.
I wonder, you know, about the fish. The fish that was prevalent in Iraq, I think, was shabut. Shabut.
Yeah, it's
We
it's
have
a
it in the West.
it's a sweetwater fish. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a bit like what's that fish called? Oh,
Cod? Cod?
no. It's gone out of my brain. They have it a lot in Poland. Forget it. It's a very greasy fish.
Yeah, and it's quite meaty.
Yes, very meaty. Yes.
I wonder how if you can cook it with another fish, all those dishes that are cooked with the very fresh fish in Iraq, how can you cook it in the West when you don't have this kind of quality?
You can use sea bream, or something, or I don't think you can get it here. It's something called dorade in France, or dorada in Spain. I think it's called sea gilt bream, or it's a much fattier fish, but a part of the bream family. You can use that kind of fish, and you can have it. It's never the same. I tell you why, because you're never going to be able to barbecue it on brushwood, so it's all it's everything, it's everything.
Indeed it is. Now, we are
but
very...
for me, I tell you, for me, the ingredient for me that tells me where I come from is rose water. And it is...
Mayward in Arabic.
Yes, the smell of it is so lovely, and it reminds me of my grandmother, who used to dab it on, as a perfume. And after being in France for a long time and coming back here and having something that has rose water in it, it sort of spoke to me like a language. It said, you are from this, and it's so I think my identity is linked with all these different tastes and flavors, and in a way, taste is a little bit like music, in that it enters the body, or the sensation. You feel the sensation just like you feel the sensation when you hear music, before thinking about it. It's immediate. And this is what I found with quite a few ingredients that reminded me of home. So these remind me of home too. These ingredients.
Like when you eat this food, also you are eating a piece of your history.
Yeah. If you have been separated from it, you see. But if you eat it every day, it's everyday food. But because one has this schism, this exile from where one comes from, yes, it could be music that takes you.
We didn't speak about music today, and I'll tell our audience that Linda feels very emotional about Arabic music, so that's why we didn't talk about it today. And Linda, we are just about to finish this part of the interview, and I have a question that I like to ask all the interviewees that I had so far is what are your wish and hope for the Middle East? Big question.
Oh, wow. The dream would be that it would be an open society and there would be peace and yes, peace for them, between them, peace, I think, and empathy for others. Just, I wish them peace. I wish it would open up and flourish, really.
Yeah. Do you think it will happen soon?
I don't know. It'll take time. It'll take time because a lot of things are entrenched so deep. You know, it's a psychological journey that a country has to go through. I think it's not just with words. You know, when you think of democracy, it took so many hundreds of years to become democracy. It's a process. So you cannot just give them that as a gift. They would have to integrate it and understand it and live it. And so it will take time, but hopefully, yeah, hopefully.
We hope so too. So we have questions from the audience. One, David A. Dangoor says that Shabbos is crap.
Is what?
Crap. He doesn't like Shabbos.
No, oh, I got the name for Shabbos. It's very similar to carp, C-A-R-P, the fish carp.
Yeah.
So thank you, David, for saying it's crap.
Yeah.
I understood it was carp.
It's carp. Yes, sorry.
It's carp.
Carp. Yeah.
Not crap.
Yeah. Yeah, that was really strange because I know Iraqis love their fish very much. And our dear friend Emil Cohen said that, well said, Linda, your answer to Merav's last question was fantastic. So you get.
Thank you. Now I can see that you're showing some of the paintings, and as you can see, there's always a lot of. In fact, this is Hebrew letters with Roman alphabet. So you know this is an ongoing thing. This is an ongoing thing with me.
Is it an olive tree?
It's the tree. Yeah, it is the tree of knowledge.
It is. So we have this combination.
So the Bible or paradise influences the paintings, and trees are one of the subjects. And also in my ceramics, the pots remind me of the tenagas in Baghdad, and we used to have that. We used to have that on the roof to have water in there. So yeah, a lot of things. You know, you can't really specifically say this came from that, but.
Oh, this is the Hebrew alphabet here.
Well, this is called the first man because the Aleph looks like almost like a person walking for me. Also, the first man is called Adam, and he has the Aleph as his first, as the first letter. So.
And we have here Linda Menuchin, our friend, who said that your description of the identity was fascinating. Do you have some more photos? Yeah. What is
this? You see, this is not Arabic, and it's a prayer that I was writing in French. Actually, it's not in English, but it doesn't really matter. It's not supposed to be read, but it's supposed to. It harks back to what I used to do when I was little, the calligraphy that I used to do. So.
And this is a sort of, what is it?
It's a bowl. It's a bowl in ceramics.
Wonderful. And this one?
Well, it's a landscape reaching upwards.
Yeah, the words are there. Always let.
Sorry, you're cutting out. I didn't hear you. What did you say?
I say that the letters are always there.
Yes, sometimes they are like prayers, you know, or incantations of something.
Yeah. Do we have some more, Gal?
So that's another tree of knowledge.
This one?
It's a landscape.
Nice.
So this is my first design when I was in France, and they were just greeting cards. Of course, it developed into something different afterwards, but it's all letters, it's all typography, it's all has to do with words. So that was my first collection in France.
Yeah, here you don't see any signs of the past. It's completely Western, isn't it?
Well, you can't. It's a commercial venture.
Yeah.
It's completely different. It's a commercial venture, and so yeah. So
now tell me, how do you create this wonderful piece? It is so refined and so delicate. It's like a pile of papers that you shape.
well, when you say how, what do you mean? It's made with stoneware, and I do each layer by layer. I don't carve it. It's layer by layer, and I mount it all the way up.
So it looks like layers of paper, you know.
Yeah, it could be.
Like
Somebody said to me, it could be. It looks like you know, the malfouf that we do. That may be, but no, it's more like a landscape for me, and I like landscapes. I like rugged landscapes, so it's a landscape of some sort. But funnily enough, all pots for me are female.
Interesting.
And the one on the right is a little harking back to Iraq.
These are more, yeah.
But it would be interesting to do a kind of panel with other Iraqis and to see, or not Iraqis, but anybody who has been exiled. And you see, it has to do also with the age, what age you leave your country. If you leave at the age of 20, you're much more rooted than if you leave at the age of 10. But it's an interesting question about identity, and I think for the immigrant, the food is the last vestige of a culture that remains the longest. Language could be forgotten after many years, and even for the generation afterwards, they don't know the language, but they know the food because the mothers. So food is more than just eating and nourishment. It has cultural roots that take you back to your roots, I think.
Yeah, I agree with you. So I think we have reached our end of interview. I want to thank you very much for a fascinating talk with you.
You're welcome.
Thank you all for being with us today, and have a nice evening to all of you. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.